Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me. Following on from the last lesson when we looked at what the Holy Land was, we're now going to look at what were the Crusades. So that's going to be your title today. Make sure you put that in your notes and you underline it. Now, as a little bit of background to help our understanding of this time, I've given you some information here. And by the end of the 11th century, the Holy Land had become a point of conflict for European Christians. Since the 6th century, Christians frequently made pilgrimages to the birthplace of their religion. But when the Turks took over Jerusalem, Christians were barred from the Holy City. The Turks then threatened to invade other countries and head towards Europe. Emperor Alexis I made a special appeal to Urban for help. Wanting to reinforce the power of the papacy, Urban seized the opportunity to unite Christian Europe under him as he fought to take back the Holy Land from the Turks. So what is this telling us? Well, it's telling us that Christians have been travelling to Jerusalem for many hundreds of years, since the 6th century. And now they're not able to enter this city anymore. That's going to make them sad, angry. Some of them are going to be worried because they believe they have to go on a pilgrimage. And so an appeal is made to Urban. He's the Pope. That's why we use the word papacy. And he wants to reunite Christians to fight back and take the Holy Land. So in 1095, Pope Urban gave a sermon to the people of Europe. He urged them to go on a crusade against the Muslims in the Holy Land and take Jerusalem from Muslim rule. Now, a sermon, that's a religious speech. So Pope Urban is telling people to go on a crusade. Clearly that's not something that we would do today. But he's telling them to go and fight. He's telling them to go to Jerusalem and fight against Muslims. Now that's wrong. We wouldn't be doing that now. But it's important to understand what he actually says. So in front of you now, I'm showing you the sermon that Pope Urban gave to Christians in Europe. I want you to press pause. I want you to read this. I've also included it as a handout if you're in one of my classes. So print it off and read the handout. And what I want you to do is see if you can identify the reasons why people would be going on the crusade. So press pause now and read this. Now, having read it, hopefully you've identified a number of reasons why people went on a crusade. And I think there are 5 key reasons in the sermon that Pope Urban gives. So the first one is people had faith in God. They believed that God was telling them to do this. Other people wanted money. They believed going on a crusade would make them rich and wealthy. Others wanted land. They would conquer lands in Jerusalem and take control of them. Other people wanted honour. They wanted to show they were brave, and they wanted to protect Europe from invasion. And other people wanted forgiveness for their sins, and so by going to fight for God, they would be forgiven for their sins. Now this meant that knights travelled from across Europe, through Rome, Greece, and into the Holy Land towards Jerusalem. And I've put a map in front of you to show you the main routes that are followed during the First Crusade. So, what's our assignment going to be this week? I want you to write why each of the factors was a reason for people to go on the crusade. But it's important you use evidence from the sermon by Pope Urban to support your argument. Now I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to look at the faith in God and how that motivated people. So here's an example written out in front of you. Some people think faith in God motivated people to join the crusade because people believed Pope Urban II was giving them a message from God. Evidence of this can be seen when Pope Urban said, "God himself has given me the power to tell you this." So, the factor is highlighted in yellow, and that talks about faith in God, and people believe Pope Urban was giving them a message from God. But the evidence is in green, and it's really important you include this as well. So if you want, copy this example down into your notes and highlight it in the same way it's highlighted here, so you can see where I've used evidence from Pope Urban's sermon to support my argument. Now next, I want you to go on to another factor, and this time I want you to write about people wanting money. So I've started this paragraph off for you. You can use this to start your own work. Some people think that wanting money would have motivated people to join the crusade because fighting in a war might make them wealthy. Evidence to support this is that Pope Urban says, now I've left it blank from there, so I want you to look at the sermon and find some evidence that you can use to support this argument. Press pause on the video if you need to complete that task, and then we're going to move on to another of the factors. Now the next factor I want you to write about is people wanting more land. So I've given you a shorter sentence starter now. Again, use this to help you get going, and then add to it to finish off the paragraph. Press pause if you need to, and then we're going to move on. Now we're going to look at people protecting their country. So you've got a sentence starter, use it if you need to, press pause and finish off that paragraph. And then finally we're talking about people wanting forgiveness. So do the same again. Write a paragraph that talks about this factor. So when you've finished, you should now have 5 short paragraphs. The first, explaining why faith in God was a reason people went on the crusade. The second, why wanting money was a factor. The third, about people wanting land. The fourth will be about people protecting their country and seeking honour. And the fifth paragraph will be about forgiveness for sins. Now that's your assignment, but if you want to take your knowledge further, have a look at the BBC Bite-Size website. They've got some really interesting information there about the Crusade. And same, look at Britannica website. That's much better than Wikipedia. Britannica is credible, it's edited, it's checked, it's an encyclopedia. So have a look at that website as well. And finally, I've put a question for you. Who were the Knights Templar? Research that as well, taking your knowledge that little bit further. Don't forget, if you've got any questions though, email or send a message and I'll get back to you and we'll take you through this learning. Okay, thanks very much.